Okay, this is a video on assembling the confetti earrings that I've had other instructions for. You will need a few materials, some jewelry tools, which are needle nose pliers, round nose pliers, some wire cutters, some wire, and I use 20 gauge half hard wire for my ear wires, and that's what this is. I like to use either sterling silver, or this is argentium sterling silver, which has a different alloy in it so that it doesn't tarnish quite as bad, and a lot of people aren't quite as allergic to it as that. And then of course I have my earrings that I finished, and this is the final step here. First you have to, I like to make my own ear wires, so I'll show you how I do that. You can use round nose pliers, or you can use round pliers that are consistent all the way down. The difference is, see how the round nose pliers, they get smaller as they go down, where these stay one size, and I like that because it's easier to make earrings. But if you notice, I also put lines on my needle nose pliers so that I put my wire in the same spot so that the circle will be the same. So I'll do that, showing you how to do that. So I like to cut my wire about 2 inches long. So that's what this is, and what I'm making are just simple ear wires. Okay, so you're going to take, this is flat, and when you cut your wire, I like this type of cutter. There's a flat side and a beveled side. I use the flat side and trim that, so then that's a nice flat flush end to it. Then I take my round nose pliers. I'm going to make my loop this size, so that's why I've got that mark. So I put my wire to where it just barely catches right there in my pliers, so you're not really seeing it. It's just barely catching. I'm going to hold it down below and make a turn with my wrist all the way around. Roll my pliers because my wrist won't go all the way around, and I want it to come all the way around to where it just touches the wire. I didn't quite touch it. So there, it's just touching the wire. And that's a little bit big, but I think I'll leave it. So I'll need to make me another one, since we got 2 ears usually, or at least I've got 2 earrings. So I'll make the other one, and I'll put it on the same mark. By putting it on the same mark, that's going to ensure that I am making them both the same size around. So now I have a matching pair. So then what I do is I can get a dowel rod or a pin, and I'll do and can put it around it, or my consistently round pliers, and I'll do that. You take, and I put them both of the pair together. I think I'm going to have to use the smaller one since I made such a larger circle. So you put both of the ear wires together, and this way you're definitely getting them the exact same size. Slide them all the way to the end, and then pull them around that loop. Hold them carefully. Then I take and I trim the ends on the flat side of my cutters. Snap that off, and see that makes them both the same length. Then I like to give it just a slight bend, so I take my flat nose pliers, and flat nose pliers and jewelry pliers do not have any grooves. If you get your husband's tool chest, their pliers are going to have grooves, and that's going to scratch it. So then I just make a slight bend on the end of the ear wire, and there I have my ear wire. Okay, those are slightly bigger than those, but you know, that's where you can be creative and do different styles there. Then after I do that, what I do is I get out some type of a block, a hammering block. This is a metal hammering block, and this is a chasing hammer, so it's flat on one side. Okay, so I like to use it. I hold my ear wire carefully, get my fingers out of the way, and I hammer to one side to where that just makes it a little bit flat on one side, and that makes it decorative. Okay, so I do the same with the other one. And what that does, it strengthens the ear wire, and I like it to be a good strong ear wire. So now that we have our ear wires, and I usually make up a whole bunch of ear wires at one time, just sit and do that. So now I'm going to assemble this earring that I made the other day. So I embedded a jump ring in it right here. So now I need to, since I like for earrings to hang this way, oh, I didn't need to put that jump ring in it. Then all I will do is just open my earring, and the way to do that is you hold it with your jewelry pliers and twist out. You don't pull it apart. That weakens it. Okay, so then I just slip my earring over that. Then I bring it back in. Now I could use, if it's too hard on your hands or very stiff, you could use another pair of pliers and just bring it back in. And I want it, and I'll wiggle it back and forth just a little bit until I get it pushed up close. I have to use my fingers till I get it close to that other wire. You do not want a gap in here, because if you leave a gap right there, sometimes your earring will come off. So then you have your finished earring, as opposed to this one that doesn't hang right. So I did that one wrong, so I'll have to take that apart. Here's another sample using the ribbon crimp, and the ribbon crimp is this little piece right here that's like a little claw machine in one sense. So I just usually glue that on, and then I put my earring piece to it. So what I'll do is use super glue, and I like to use the Gorilla super glue. You have to shake it up each time before you use it. And I'm just going to put a few dabs on either side. Now some people say you don't have to use glue with these crimps, but I find it just works a lot better. So, and on this particular little claw crimp, one side has teeth and one side doesn't. So I put the teeth to the back, slip that over, make sure it's centered. Then I take my pliers carefully, because I don't want it to uncenter, and just crimp it down a little bit, okay? So it just grabs. And then I would open my ear wire the same way and attach that. Okay, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry first before I start fiddling with it. Okay, another pair are the ones that I embedded the longer piece of wire in. So what I do is I collect me some beads, and that was the reason behind doing the long wire in the piece, because then I can add some beads. You're just going to slip them on. Okay, make sure your end is cut flat and square, and I did measure before I cut it off. I cut both wires the same distance. And then this, you can either make just a loop, or I see what I did another kind of a loop, which is a wound loop. And you can go online and see different wound loops that you can make. So you're just going to do that, Then you're going to hold it with your pliers and twist that wire around. I'm going to turn it around so I can get to it. Just so it's bound around the wire. You can also take and use your pliers a little bit to bend it around. Then when you do get it bent around, and this is why I like the little scissor type pliers, is I can get it down in there. And notice I put my finger on top of that whenever I cut it. That's so the wire doesn't fly up and hit my eye. Now I'm just going to bend that around just a little bit. Make sure it's, you want to make sure that your loop is facing this way, so when you put it in on your ear wire, you open your ear wire out and then just hang it this way. Close it up. Then you have a nice pretty dangle. Okay. And the final one is the one where we put the stud into the back. And then this has a little finding on it that comes off so that it will go into the ear hole, and then this goes to the back of the ear, and then that would dangle. So in order to make it dangle, I've got to drill some holes. So, and what I do with my drilled holes, I just take a piece of wood and put an X on it, and this allows me to be able to center my hole, because I can take and balance it between these, and then I have this center line right there so I can line my drill bit up. And remember, on these we put the finding, the little round finding, up some so that I would have a space to put my hole here without having to drill into the finding. So now I've lined my two corners up, and there's where my center would be. And this is just like a little pin vise I've just put a little drill bit into. You can take and just use a drill bit without this in there, but it's easier on your hands if you've got one in a pencil vise. So then I start it and then hold my drill bit up perpendicular. And it's hard to hold it show you perpendicular, but it's just straight up and down. Okay, and you're just going to press and twist. And I like to wait till after my jewelry is cured or baked before I drill my holes. I think it makes just a much prettier hole. Then sometimes I'll go back in through the, looks like I didn't get that centered very well. I must not have been paying attention. Wait now. I believe I didn't. So it's always good to goof up. What I can do, I can go back in with some clay, fill that in, and recure it. I meant to drill the hole right here on the corner. That's on this corner. That's how I designed the earring. I knew something didn't look right. Okay, now start over and drill it. Okay, then I'll come back through the front just to be sure it's nice and smooth all the way through. And clean that off. Then I will take and drill set that one aside, drill my hole in the other piece that it goes in. Find the center, and drill all the way through. If you have a Dremel tool, this works, and you're doing a whole lot of earrings, this works so much better with a Dremel tool. But you don't have to have a Dremel tool either. So, okay, that's nice and clean. Okay, now I have my 2 pieces, and I'll assemble them. I do not throw these away. I have a little container that I put my shavings into. And sometimes mixing it in with, I've mixed this in with white polymer clay, and it makes like confetti looking specks in the clay, or the translucent clay, or any light colored clay. It would show, the specks would show through. So I don't throw it away, I save it. It's pretty. Okay, so now I will assemble these, and I want that to be a dangle, so I'm going to take and open up the jump ring, and this is when I do need the other pliers. It's much easier on your hands. Hold it on either side of where the jump ring is cut. Put one side in, and then the other side, and this is where I can get confused sometimes. So when you start putting them in, it's going to be back to back or front to front. So my back is going to flop down, so that would make it back to back or front to front, and that way you will have it. There's only 2 ways to do it, and it seems like about 50% of the time, if I don't stop and think, I'm threading it in the wrong way. So now I have a pretty little dangly earring. You can't see it dangle whenever I'm holding it that way, but you can see. Nice dangle earring. And that concludes the confetti earrings. So I'm very pleased with how they turned out. And if you try this, I hope you will be pleased also. I think they're just some really pretty earrings and different styles of earrings. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.